right, here we are at the airfield, ready to go. Looks like we're taxiing on the runway right now. At, I believe it's Shizuoka. And I think I've taken off from this airfield before in Microsoft Flight, Flight Sim World, one of the recent ones that I played, in order to go take a look at Mount Fuji and the surrounding area, including Tokyo. So let's go ahead and get ready to fly. Game has a little animation here of just putting you onto the runway, and you can skip that and you'll be basically teleported right into position. Okay, let's go ahead and get ready to fly. First I wanted to take a look at the aircraft. Oh, this is a really good one to fly around Alaska. Nice. All right, let's focus on the trim. That's something that I usually... There we go. Flaps are set to 15. Okay. It's one thing I always forget to set off too. So, all right, I've set the trim back as far as I can. It's kind of hard to get it perfect with the knob that I'm using, but that's close enough for now. Go ahead and disengage parking brake, and let's prepare. Here we go. Try to go for the center of the runway. And we are good to go. And we're off. Perfect. Very nice. Awesome. Well, better than most of my takeoffs, to be honest. Alright. So the direction we want to go from this airfield is basically north. Wow. That is beautiful. Off in the distance, we can already see Mount Fuji. And I want to see if the Japanese buildings actually look Japanese style. Pushing the engine a little too far here. All right, let's go ahead and check out Japan. Beautiful. I'm learning a lot more about flight, remembering a lot of things from my previous training. I'm certainly no pilot. Remembering to, for example, put down and raise flaps, very important, parking brakes, very basic stuff. And it is fun to remember those things. Now, we did see Mount Fuji a moment ago off in the distance. And there she is again. Or I guess he, Fuji-san. Now, one thing I want to do here is try to putz around a little bit in order to find the Shinkansen line to see if we can see any of the Japanese high-speed rail lines. And that might be it right there with those two lines going into the mountain like that. Though the Japanese also have a lot of elevated highways because you go through a mountain, into a valley, back into a mountain, and into a valley again. It's just much easier for traffic to actually move at a, at the same angle without having to adjust any sort of incline or decline, just to try to keep everything at the same elevation. It's very powerful to do that. It makes traffic flow much smoother. Wow, beautiful. All right, let's get to the coast. I know the Shinkansen line is over here. And we'll kind of just cruise and enjoy the beautiful blue skies again. Not a cloud in the sky. It's always nicest to see, so that way you can really get a feel for how large this game is. Of course, how big's the map? Well, the size of Earth. And does it recreate that? It absolutely does. If you're going to, for example, fly your aircraft from, let's say you wanted to take a 737 from JFK in New York to Chicago, it would take the same amount of time. One thing I'm seeing here is exactly what I saw in Flight Sim World, where you can see bridges going over like a little valley there, a little town with it. But then just off to the right of that, you can kind of see by the other river near the actual windshield, not through the door, where it looks like it just kind of goes uphill and down, and it bounces all around. If that were an actual roadway, that would not exist. But it seems like there's two systems fighting each other. There's a satellite system that just tried to put a road there because that's what it saw, but there's an actual system trying to recreate bridges as they would be as they pass over rivers and valleys and try to make a way through without doing any sort of crazy, you know, it's like a roller coaster basically. And that's kind of what I saw in Flight Sim World too. Let's take a look at a lot of the buildings down there. I'm not seeing many Japanese style roofs or anything like that on some of the smaller homes, but there must certainly be some of that style. I feel like when I was in Egypt, I definitely saw a lot of flat adobe roofs and things made out of mud and dirt, but also modern commercial buildings. And I feel like if we went down a little further, we would actually see a lot of the buildings looking like traditional Japanese homes, but also more modern buildings that are just meant to be simplistic and affordable rather than keep any sort of tradition. If it's, for example, a hardware store, it's going to be a big box building. And it looks beautiful. Makes me excited to go again. I love the food. I love all of the travel. I love the mass transit in Japan. I think it's great. Did I mention I love the food? And I also really like the food, too. Alright, I believe that might be the Shinkansen line there. That goes right through. And it is near the coast. You can actually see Mount Fuji from the train. But it looks like I see cars rolling down there. Oh, that could be the Shinkansen line right here. Just in the smaller window in the corner. And it looks like it goes right into the tunnels right below. And we'll be able to clarify that with some bridges. The Shinkansen, being a high-speed train, does not make a lot of turns. Just like an aircraft, the Shinkansen is essentially the aircraft of the ground. It's really built like a plane, like a supercar. When the Shinkansen needs to move through an area, it moves at a very small degree. It makes very small turns over a long distance because it's high speed. And so if it needs to go around a mountain or a river, it'll do so gradually and then eventually come to a bridge straight on. That'll be at the same elevation. And it's really beautiful. It's such a great system. Being on the Shinkansen feels a lot like being on a plane. There's Mount Fuji there in the distance. Inactive volcano, but also active at the same time. You can actually climb the mountain. You know, it's not actively erupting. There's no smoke plume coming out of the top, but it is considered to be an active volcano. A lot of people think if a volcano is active, it must be erupting, but as you probably know, active volcano just means that there's the potential for an eruption, and that's something they face off with all the time. And, for example, Hawaii in the United States, there's plenty of active volcanoes that could potentially erupt at any time, and often do. Beautiful rivers here. I love that river there. Coming to a connection there all the way out to the ocean. That is beautiful to see. And I believe I'm not seeing any of the trains go through, but man, I would freak out if I was able to see a Shinkansen flying along there and try to race it. I'm really hoping we see one of those, but probably unlikely, though the train line is actually set up, and that's amazing. Large windmill down there. That's cool to see. It's actually turning in the lower corner. Let's take a look at that. That's cool. Very beautiful to see that. Okay, we're going to follow what I think is the train line here. And I want to get a little closer to the ground and see if we can identify if it is a actual train line. I like aircraft as much as I like trains. Is anybody with me down below in that comment section? You must like either trains or planes to be watching this, and in my case, both. I really like both of these. And this seems to be a highway here. Although I don't really see any traffic on it. Let's try to get out the side and look out the window. Yeah, this seems to have too many curves to actually be the Shinkansen, though it does go through a lot of the towns. And we'll see it in just a moment there. Yep, it is a highway. Ooh, and look at that dip there. Well, it might be hard to see. I don't have the track IR or anything at that moment. Getting close to mountains there. Well, a lot of the buildings actually do look like traditional Japanese homes. I'm impressed. That's great. Well, it is photorealistic, and it does capture... Oh, and there's some roads there that are flooded, just like what I saw in Cairo, Egypt before. Well, we certainly need to pick up our nose a little bit. I think I'm a car in this game, but it's just... There's so much to see on the ground. It's awesome. So what to expect when you see your house in this game, by the way. You probably can see your house. Some houses are a little more buried by... It seems like if you live in an urban area such as this, you're probably more likely to see your home, because there's not a lot of trees to obscure things. As where I live, in the Midwest of the United States, it's very difficult to see your home because everything's pretty much buried by tree cover. A lot of these neighborhoods were built after World War II, and then, or after World War I, World War II, and then there's lots of trees that people planted around their home for shade. And, you know, 40, 50 years later, everything is now basically covered in trees and very difficult to see from there. Little canals and things like that. That is great. Let's check out the other side here. Beautiful. Looks like there's some port buildings coming up. And looks like some more industrial style buildings here. Long warehouses and things for building boats. Yeah, there's a lot of things that look like they were taken from top down and then they just plop a boat down. You can see what looks to be like boats in the harbor. Ooh, yeah, like for example here. It is just a photo of a harbor that's kind of smashed down on the ground. But I do like to see some of the buildings here. Now, when you fly around major cities like Tokyo and stuff, a lot of that might be more handcrafted and might have a little extra detail. Instead of it being a sticker on the ground, it'll actually look like there's containers and such stacked up. But again, this is not a game where you're meant to be on the ground. It is a flight simulator, but the big emphasis here is that flight is more important for the smaller aircraft now that there's a lot more to look at, because there's more emphasis on the ground and great detailing. And it really looks fantastic. Let's get that outside view. Beautiful. So the roads near the coast definitely curve a lot more with the landscape. And I'm not seeing any sort of Shinkansen, so I guess I've kind of confirmed that that might not necessarily be in the game, but I do believe I see some sort of railroad tracks here. You can see the support beams where the electric wires would be. All those little metal lines, which look like they're crossing a brown road. The brown area is likely the train tracks themselves, and those white lines are probably the support beams for the wires. So I guess it's confirmed that the Shinkansens are not here, but man, this only means that if this is the base game, if this is the platform for Microsoft Flight Simulator, if this is our starting point, imagine where we're going to end up. Because with all the mods in the world for Flight Simulator X or X-Plane 11, not even close. Not even close. And with mods in 5 to 10 years, you remember what happened with City Skylines, where City Skylines blew people away when it first released vanilla? And here we are about 5 years after the release of that game. Every single building is modded into the game. There's so many DLCs for the game that improve it, and people who mod onto the DLC. So each DLC, the reason to buy the DLCs for that game is that it vastly improves the game when you get the mods. Like, you have to pay a small fee to get the DLC, but the mods that you can get for free off of the Steam store are just incredible. And I wish this game would be on Steam. There's no word yet if it will come to that. You'll have to get it through the Microsoft store. as it is a Microsoft game, hence Microsoft Flight Simulator. But it definitely has a huge potential for many things, including already some confirmed things in there like VAT Sim, and a lot of support already from many of the communities moving over and getting ready with new skins and things to move over, liveries, for example, for example, British Airways or Air France or United Airlines, etc. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look around Mount Fuji. We're getting pretty close now. I'm getting excited. My goodness, that is a large river. Pretty impressive that you can see Mount Fuji pretty much from the point where we take off. And as we get closer to it, you realize how large it actually is. Look at those beautiful bridges. I'd love to fly under some of those. This is kind of more of a... This aircraft here handles a little bit more like a bus. As where I would say like the 747 and 737s handle like aircraft carriers. This kind of feels like a delivery van or a bus. And some of the other smaller aircraft feel a little bit more like a sports car. And they're really fun to zip around large neighborhoods and such. Trying to get a look down there as I hold on to the flight stick. Lots of good stuff to see. I really like the detail here. And again, a huge urban area. Mount Fuji's a big boy. If we're going to do a climb to get up there, we're probably going to have to get to... Geez, I don't even know how tall the mountain is. We're at just approaching 3,000 feet, and definitely probably over 10. But I do want to zip around the base of the mountain. That's got to be some train lines there. Areas for material storage and whatnot in the middle of the city. Now Tokyo's over that away. And wow. That is amazing. You know what? I never even put the landing gear up, did I? I don't know if this plane actually has the ability to bring the landing gear up. Well, I tried to hit my buttons for it, but it looks like I don't think this plane doesn't look like it goes in the fuselage, so I believe it hangs out, but I didn't get a warning about it, so that's why I didn't bother too much. You know what's great about this game? I love the landscape so much and what we're seeing, that the planes almost take second place, but to be able to see inside the aircraft and see some things reflecting off the windows is just really impressive. Sometimes the screens, the computer screens, will reflect onto the window, and it's just amazing. It really impresses you when you first see it. Baseball, what looks to be a football stadium down there with a little track and field around it. Very nice. Lots of highways in Japan. Lots of roads, lots of railways, lots of buildings. Really cool how urban it is. Makes it really exciting. There's always something to look at architecture-wise. Pretty impressive. Yeah, so I've hit the button on my landing gear and it must not have it. I'm so excited to just go in this game that, you know, I don't feel like I want to use the user manual, you know what I mean? I don't read the user manual on these aircraft. As I should, right? You should learn all the strengths and weaknesses of the aircraft, but I'm just too excited about this game. I just want to go. And that's totally fine. I hope to go from a gamer noob, like I am now, to a, you know, staunch simulator where I want to play everything within the certain rules of how you would actually play it. Or actually simulate flight and all ATC rules. Well, hello, Mount Fuji. Now, when you see Mount Fuji from an aircraft or whatnot, if you're on Japanese Airlines and he's behind a cloud, they'll say Fuji-san is shy today, you know, like as if he's hiding behind the clouds. It's a very beautiful mountain, too. Like, it just kind of has a nice slope to it. It's really nice and smooth all the way up to the top. You know, it doesn't have, like, any jagged edges. It's not really... It's not like a cliff face. It's just kind of like the same all around, for the most part. And it's just beautiful. You can actually see the road that leads up there, too. There are tour buses and things that'll go up to visitor centers. And there are ways all the way up to the top of the mountain where you can climb all the way up to the top. It's more of a walk. You're not like, you know, it's not Mount Everest. You're not putting down climbing ropes and getting all the way to the top that way. Now we're about 7,000 feet now. And still climbing. Seems to be a white block in front of me. I don't know if that's a building that's painted white. Just on the nose of the aircraft. Oh, and some of the trees kind of disappeared. Keep in mind, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, in real time, all of these trees are loading in. And that density of both urban and trees that don't look like they're kind of like... It doesn't feel like it's tricking you in this game. It doesn't feel like it's an actual... an optical illusion to make it seem like the town is there. Some of the things are like that. The harbor, for example, where we saw the cargo, you know, that's the old style. But I'm thinking over years with this game being updated constantly, I'm in. You know, like paying the $130, you know, plus any other DLCs to play a game like this. It's great. And other people were mentioning like, oh, you know, you don't get paid for your flights or anything like that. What's the point of that? You know, that type of thing. But honestly, you can simulate that in other communities if you wanted to, you know, it's somewhat like American Truck Simulator if you wanted to simulate what it would be like to, you know, be a bush pilot. But if you're flying a 737, you're doing so for a company, for an airliner. You're not doing it, you know, for fun. In the United States, people can buy their own truck. But a little tricky to buy a 737, isn't it? Oh, there's that building below us. Hello, Fuji-san. Konnichiwa. Wow. Imagine skiing down that. There's actually some decent ski slopes here. Gorgeous. Tokyo over that way. It's actually a roadway that goes by Mount Fuji too. You should be able to see it. It's many a large highway that runs between the base of Mount Fuji and the edge of the coast. Wow, look at that. I think we need to fly over the top, but we're rapidly losing speed. We'll need to level off a little bit. Wow, look at the walkways and the roads up there. That's cool. Ah, and the moon over the top. Beautiful. Wow. I'm impressed with this. There's great detail to Mount Fuji. It's actually not marked as a landmark in the game either. So I really wish they would add some more landmarks to the game where, you know, they have a lot of the man-made stuff, but not actual, like, geological areas like Grand Canyon or this, Mount Fuji. Look at that road that goes all the way up there. It's probably a path for people to walk up. It's probably not an actual roadway, but a pathway. Well, we're at 12,000 feet now and climbing. Man, I'm glad I came here. We're going to go peek inside of the volcano. I always thought it was just a mountain, but it explains why it looks the way it does. Just gorgeous. Look at that. Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? Looks like a missile silo or something at the very top. We actually did see a visitor center before. Yep, you can see the building there on the far right rim of the volcano. Plenty of building for visitors and people to sit up here and watch the sunrise. Boy, if you started climbing this, you'd probably have to start midday, and you wouldn't get up there until the next morning to see the sunrise. But much easier getting down than going up, huh? Or skiing, that would be amazing. Absolutely beautiful. Feels like we're in the Alps or something now. You can actually see the shadow of our aircraft down there too. That's a great detail. Look at that. Impressive. Alright, we'll level off. And I'm going to circle around here. And we're just going to do a nice flyover so we can see inside the volcano. So if you're a pro, or if you're an amateur or a gamer, a staunch lover of simulators who is interested in this game, I don't think I need to recommend it or not. I think you've already made up your mind. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people, an incredible amount of people buying Microsoft Flight Simulator. And the fact that you can find your house or place of work or business and actually visit it as if it were like Google Maps, it's pretty reliable in terms of how cities look and stuff. I mean, you can actually you know, if you were to see your the trip that you take, your commute from work to home and back, imagine that. You could probably see the route. It might not be one-to-one accurate or high def, but for all of Earth to be in HD, you got to lose a little bit of resolution. All right, let's pass over Mount Fuji. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Let's take a look behind us. Wow. Wow. That's pretty amazing. It doesn't seem as big now that we're up high, but once we get back down to, you know, 10,000, 5,000 feet, prepare to land somewhere else, it's pretty amazing. And how large Mount Fuji. Yeah, and how large Mount Fuji is. Look at the, it's really the largest thing out here too. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's not really any mountain ranges nearby. I mean, there are, but it's kind of all alone here. It's not just like the highest spot of its own mountain range. It's really impressive. All right, well, we'll get back down level, and I'll bring her around over to Tokyo. Ooh, we are dropping like crazy. Hold on there, cowboy. There we go. All right, we'll slowly glide back down to Earth, find an airfield, and go have ourselves some ramen, or find a sukiya in order to get some of that stuff. Oh, Japan, you're great. Good food, good games, good people, great mass transit, and it is gorgeous. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you next time for more Microsoft Flight Sim. Thanks for tuning in with me for a little fly around the mountain. I know some of you want to see some more landings and such, so if you want to see other aircraft land, make sure you check out some of my other videos. Thank you, as always, for subbing and smashing like on the video. And let me know your thoughts on the game if you want me to go fly anywhere specific or do any sort of historical routes or fly any other aircraft. Please feel more than welcome to ask questions down below. I might not have all the answers, but somebody might. And I would love to learn from you and get you excited for Microsoft Flight Sim, because I want to see 1 million people playing this game. All right, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. Thanks for flying with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.